But I think what's being missed here is what we talk about on this show all the time. Facebook was founded in 2004. It's 20 years old. It's almost a $2 trillion company. It's a $1.5 trillion company. This is what happens when you layer on the internet, mobile phones, and a global network, right? Yes, gold has been around for thousands of years. Yes, gold is extremely lindy. But you want to know what? Because of the same effects that allowed Facebook to come out of literally nowhere to become the fourth or fifth most valuable company in the world, and Google, Bilal's former employer, same deal. Founded.
You don't have to say that. Yeah, we got a whole segment coming on those guys. We got a whole segment.
That thing is 25 years old. So yeah, gold's lindy, but Bitcoin came up at a time where it looks like it's turning out that you can build something as valuable as gold potentially in 15 years because of the internet.
Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. We've got the NIA boys here today, Trung Phan, Jack Butcher, and Bilal Zaidi. Junk Butcher. I don't know what I just said.
Junk Butcher.
That's all 1 week out the game. I'm already messing up.
No, bro.
Names
that's all the knockoff visualized value accounts. Junk Butcher.
Junk Butcher. It's sweet. Junk Butcher's launching an NFT in Telegram right now. Trying to get people to buy his thing right now.
Buy Junk Butcher's chucks. Why don't you tell us what we're talking about today, bro?
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're going to be talking Google Gemini. That's probably going to be the most of the conversation today. There's been some crazy stuff happening there. The Reddit IPO. We'll see if we get to Wendy's surge price, but we got to start off right here with crypto pumping. Trung, you're sitting down. We're close to the 69K, right? We're going to have to do meme of the week with our boy Sailor here.
Can we walk through the psychology? We all knew it was going to come back, right? Like, what's so funny is we
now you feel like it's coming back, but
well, what I was joking about was like we all just ate it, right? Like, I mean, well, you guys probably got in at a way better price point, anyways. I know you're buying in Bilal 2017 on ETH. You told me you're buying in that first run up. Jack's been in the game, and he's just getting showered ETH left, right, and center. He doesn't even have to. He doesn't have an entry price.
He's getting paid in ETH.
But,
there we go.
I'm playing. Jack doesn't appreciate that, but yeah, I mean, I was the guy. I ate the most, but what's funny was being with you guys every week. We're just laughing about it. We're just like, it's
well, for old school NIL listeners, you know, we used to call Trung Fiat fan.
Yeah.
Because for a long time you were having this. I heard about Bitcoin in 2012, in 24, basically what everyone's had, right? Like the first time you heard it and it was $2, and you're like, well, let me just wait, and then it gets to 1,000, and you're like. So that's what's happened so many times. But you bought it live on NIA, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I did. I think it's episode like 5. I bought my first 30 Bitcoin, a 30.
30 Bitcoin? Yeah.
A 30K, and then 2 at ETH. Like those numbers.
I thought you said you had 30 Bitcoin. No, I was like, okay.
I wouldn't be on this podcast if I was on 30 Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you who's got more than 30 Bitcoin, and that is the famous Michael Saylor. Boys, this is a Jack Butcher special. Jack, you shared this with us, yeah?
Yeah.
This clip. Let's just do.
He's been on such an incredible tear the last couple of weeks.
Has he been what? Has he just been doing a podcast tour?
Mate, at CNBC, he's everywhere.
Okay, hit this.
Who doesn't want Michael Saylor as a guest on a financial?
We got a minute, people. We got a minute long.
All right, minute video. So even if you're listening, it's good enough. Here we go.
Yeah.
Take all your economic energy and all your economic power, and to the extent that you disagree with any other institution or distrust any other
this background music
in the world,
so good.
You always have this one opportunity that Bitcoin promises you that no one else on earth can offer you. No charity will give you this. No government will give you this. No religion will give you this. This one thing I'm going to offer you right now, which is
the spot.
You can take the sum total of everything you accomplished economically in this life. You can buy Bitcoin with it, and then you can take your private keys with you to the grave, and you will have contributed your life energy into a network which is thermodynamically sound, conservative, should reasonably go on for thousands of years, and you will have contributed your life force to every one of your comrades, compatriots, everyone that believed what you believe, everyone that comes after you. You will have made the ultimate legacy.
I mean, absolutely incredible. Where are we? Is
Bro.
he $5 billion up? It sounds
Bro,
like, right?
he's
Yeah.
honed the messaging
Oh,
to
next level.
It's like one of those master Japanese sword makers. Like the precision of his cuts now, like just these sound bites. I mean, he's just been working on it, right? He's been workshopping 10 hours of podcasts a week for 4 years now.
He was coming on little
It's-
podcasts like ours
He's
several years
showing
ago.
up on 4,000 sub podcasts and like
Legend.
starting wars with the Ethereum community. It's unbelievable how precise this message has gotten.
And it's wild stuff. I mean, Jack, you shared this with us, and you share a lot of Sailor videos, but how does this rank in the all-time great Sailor
it's up-
videos? Because that is
I think
ridiculous.
it's up there, just in a minute to have like gotten that level of like that to me is
Gas.
one of the new USP positioning
Take it to the
of
grave.
the Sailor estate. Take it to the grave, man.
Take it to the grave. You've contributed by
Wait,
burning your Bitcoin, basically.
Wait, no, guys, you gotta stop. We need to walk through the USPs, the user selling propositions he's done. I'm gonna tell you a couple I remember.
Unique, yeah.
Unique selling
So, yeah,
propositions
yeah.
he said about Bitcoin. Okay, thermodynamically sound. He's mentioned that before. He mentioned that. What was the other
Sugar-powered
one?
Tesla.
Yeah, sugar-powered Tesla. An encrypted wall of energy that can
Wow.
instantly transport across the universe. What else?
That's
has
got to
he-
be, that might be the top one, because that's actually
no.
kind of true.
Yeah, that one's true. The other one I love is the Manhattan. He's talking about Manhattan.
What was that again?
What's underneath Manhattan? It's just this rock. You can't build Manhattan without that foundation, that island underneath, this massive geological construct that has been.
I thought you were about to
formed
say
over
tunnels there,
millions
but
of
yeah, right.
years. No, he's talking about literally the rock under Manhattan. And then
Yeah,
he said
yeah,
that one as like you need that sustainable. That's what Bitcoin is. That's a Bitcoin protocol, right? It's this hard asset. What else, Jack? You got some? Oh, the goat.
Send me the other one. I sent you another one last night about the window in the plane. Did you read it?
Say more.
I don't think I saw that one. Wait.
But
I don't
it's
see
in the group chat below. If you want to pull it up,
On
it's like 30
WhatsApp
seconds
or
long.
Twitter?
I think Twitter, but
Let's pull it up. One
I'll,
sec.
I'll explain it. It's like
Go on.
he uses Peter Schiff as an example. It's like people arguing about this for 10 years. Like if you were sitting on an airplane and somebody broke the window to the left of you and you're losing oxygen, would you argue about how much oxygen you're losing, or would you just put the mask on? Bitcoin is the mask in that analogy.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, what?
Well, remember it's the exact quote that he dropped on NIA. The dollar will lose 99.9% of its purchasing power over the next 100 years.
Do you know why Jack knows that? Because he cut an incredible trailer that we've referenced several times.
Yeah,
now
when we
and
start
heard that 100
Patreon,
times.
when we start at $4.99 Patreon per month, y'all listeners can hop in there. That'll be the first piece
The
of
Jack
media
special.
we drop in there.
That's all Jack's
The,
going to do
the
is cut
sailor
trailers.
analogies are going to be up only from here, boys.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
for the
where are we with the
next
price,
long,
boys? Because
long
Bitcoin is now, let me pull up,
56K.
56. It hit 57 last night. So we're recording Tuesday afternoon. This is out Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon. So yeah, ETH is up to 3,200. What are the
Not
highs?
investment
Definitely not.
advice.
The high of Bitcoin was 69K. So we're getting pretty close to that.
Guys, I gotta
ETH
say
went
this
up to
though.
5, I think, right? 4, 8
Yeah,
or
it
5.
hit.
4,
Top
9,
4.
yeah.
I gotta say this. So I'm way late to the game like you guys. You guys have been in this. But I remember when I was going through the Jack Butcher recommendation. This is Jack's initial recommendation. He's like, go listen to 10 hours of What is Money. That podcast of What is Money with Michael Saylor.
Is it time to bring it back?
You will be converted. Right? It's just money is energy. That's it. Every civilization, whoever has harnessed energy wins. That's just like the thesis. Okay. I remember when I was at the peak of that and we were rocking and rolling like 2021 boys. And I started preaching to my because I had joined you guys, no longer a Fiat fan. I remember the skepticism. And now we're back. It feels so nice. I wonder what it feels like for the people that have been in this for a decade plus, as they're just, dude, the guys that have been in this for a decade, the winning that's going on, the winning that they're experiencing.
Did you see?
right now,
I sent you boys the still from the end of The Pursuit of Happiness, where he's
Oh,
in the
with Will
crowd
Smith.
with his
Yeah,
fists in the
yeah.
air.
That's
That
good.
is such a great way to capture the feeling of your conviction.
There's a question for you boys, because you brought this up, because you know, how many of your old crypto group chats or family members, random people that, you know, let's say 2017 or 2021 or whenever it was, the amount of questions you'd get, they're like, oh, what do you think of this? Like the only one, I won't say his name, but someone I know who I recommend I don't give investment advice, but to him, I said, yeah, just sell what you're doing because you're not in the game for this. He was like, should I sell Bitcoin to buy a Rolex? Because I can buy this online with Bitcoin. And he was trying to, I shouldn't say what he was trying to do, but he wasn't trying to sell it in Coinbase. Let's say that, right? So, but that sort of stuff was the only one I've heard. Whereas like Thanksgiving, Christmas, no one was talking about it really. Like the normies, if you want to call them that, regular people. And even if you look at like Google Trends, right? Like searching for people, searching for like, what is Bitcoin or how do I buy Bitcoin? Like any of those kind of that category of keywords, it's not really picked up. And so what we have seen is it seems to be what's driving a lot of this price movement is a combination of like the ETF institutional stuff and probably like general buying up over time.
And people realizing you can take this to the grave. I think that's what's really happening.
Because they want to sacrifice their Bitcoin, you know what I mean?
Here's a question for the CFA. What would you estimate the inflows into the BlackRock ETF yesterday?
Why yesterday? Did something happen
yesterday? Just as an example
like
of how much capital is flowing into a BlackRock ETF.
The Bitcoin one.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a random number, 500 million.
1.3 billion.
Okay, that's a lot. I don't know how much that actually is, but it feels like a lot.
Just in terms of, I think ETF volume, it is like setting records.
I actually saw someone, I think it was Dylan St. Clair. Dylan Leclerc, one of the big Bitcoin accounts for the media stuff. He said Fidelity is now recommending 1 to 3% of your, I mean, granted, they are probably a little bit.
Yeah, I think, Jack, I'm going to put it on the screen here.
I think that might have been Fidelity Canada, boys.
Yeah, Canada is. Yeah, Will Clemente.
Yeah,
he shared this. This is Fidelity All-in-One Constructive ETF Fund. Anyway, basically recommending 1 to 3%.
I mean, that's a big deal, dude. Fidelity.
That's like gold. That's like what traditionally you would say. Oh, hold a bit of gold. It's an inflation hedge, and that's what we've been talking about for some time. That was a general number people were aiming for, like the low end. And Trung, you spoke to Druckenmiller, right? Yeah. Legendary, one of the best investors of all time, if not the top for what he does. He was buying Bitcoin, right? And he had talked about a single-digit percentage, if I remember correctly. Or what? Do you remember what he said about that?
No, he was. He got in 12. He actually bounced at 30, but he probably 3x his
30K,
position.
you're saying the price?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. But he also, it's not like he's hurting. That guy backed up the Brinks truck from NVIDIA about 3 years ago. So,
he's doing okay.
Is absolutely, but this guy stays winning, right?
Did the opposite of Cathie Wood, basically. Yeah, he held it all the way through.
Dude, Masayoshi-san owned 5% of NVIDIA in 2019 and sold it. Buddy, that's $100 billion fumble. But then he made it back on ARM. But hold on a second. I got to say something about what you brought up, Bilal, about the allocation to Bitcoin. I love that we're talking about Bitcoin now. We actually haven't had a good Bitcoin chat in a while.
Yeah. Well, we were waiting for this, because it's hard in the bear market.
We were kind of waiting for the 50K, right? Like we were hovering around the 47. But what's interesting about these ETFs now is, you said it's like 1 to 3%. It is like gold. And but what I will say is this: you talk to any gold bug, right? I'm sure you guys have you guys spoke to gold bugs about Bitcoin? Like they obviously hate Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them hate it. They're like, gold has 1,000-year history. But I think what's being missed here is what we talk about on this show all the time. Dude, Facebook was founded in 2004. It's 20 years old. It's almost a $2 trillion company. It's a $1.5 trillion company. This is what happens when you layer on the internet, mobile phones, and a global network, right? Yes, gold has been around for thousands of years. Yes, gold is extremely lindy. But you want to know what? Because of the same effects that allowed Facebook to come out of literally nowhere to become the fourth or fifth most valuable company in the world, and Google, Bilal's former employer, same deal. Founded.
You don't have to say that. Yeah, we got a whole segment coming on those guys.
that thing is 25 years old. So yeah, gold's Lindy, but Bitcoin came up at a time where it looks like it's turning out that you can build something as valuable as gold potentially in 15 years because of the internet.
What's the market cap of, if that's the right order, valuation
10
of
trillion,
Bitcoin?
isn't it? Gold.
Well, gold is 10, but I think this is
gold's
1,
10.
right? Bitcoin's 1.
Bitcoin is 1 and crypto is 2, I think.
Including ETH and all the others, yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest, my general take on all of this is narrative, right? Like housing market, startup, like everything is narrative with some underlying real stuff. But like investments and valuation things and how much people are willing to pay for it. What's the Jack thing always says? Willing buyers at willing price.
Don't attribute that to me. That's fucking margin call.
I know it's margin call, but you always reference it.
Are selling to willing buyers at the market. Was it at the
my point here is that
Wendy's.
We're gonna get to Wendy's search price, but like either way, the value of this is decided by the market, and at the moment the market is showing they care more about buying than selling. So I think there's a long way to go with just retail anyway, just from speaking to people, looking at all the kind of indicators there. And it is interesting to see, like when the ETFs got announced, we kind of covered it on the pod, like we didn't see that massive jump straight away because there was that selling pressure from the thing that you had.
Buy the rumor, sell the news, right? And people knew it was coming.
It was, but it was also the GBTC thing, right? Which was because there was a high fee. The fees are so high. Yeah. The fees were high, so some people were trading out, basically selling one, eventually buying the other. So anyway, we don't know exactly what's happening, but it is very interesting time. It's we're hitting the end of February. The halvening for Bitcoin is in a few months, I guess, right? Was that May? So yeah, there's narrative-wise at least.
Advice, not investment
but there's a lot of things going on. So anyway, anything else on Bitcoin, crypto? Jack,
Jack said he has some anecdotes, some fun anecdotes.
Yeah, go on, Jack.
I mean, we got other stuff to cover, but we should do an episode next week and actually bullet out some topics.
Okay.
All right, cool. Okay. Sounds good.
There's some good like NFT marketplace wars and such, Bitcoin inscriptions and NFTs
just
on
the
Bitcoins
and stuff as well. Yeah. I've seen a lot of hype around that, and I think you've been working on that as well. Yeah,
I have a few. Yeah.
All right, so we should definitely talk about that. Let's move on to Google Gemini though. So Trung, do you want to give a summary of what the hell happened, and we can talk about all the terrible stuff they've been doing here, man? But let's give a summary.
I'll give a summary, and then I don't want to pick on Bilal, but I do want to get his point of view on this. So this is what happened, right? Let me do a fast forward of Google Gemini. And I put all this into a Spanish Laughing Guy video. Some of you may have seen it at this point.
Incredible,
because Elon reposted it. And
what's that on 20 million views now?
I think it's at 40 million views now, but I don't know how they're counting the views on Twitter. But the whole point is this. I made a classic El Racista video. So everybody knows Spanish Laughing Guy. Legend. Rest in peace, by the way. So Google, Bilal, when did you leave Google?
2017, April.
Beautiful. 2017 is where the story starts.
The good old days.
Yeah, Google.
Maybe just past the good days, to be honest, but yeah.
But pretty close. Well, actually, you could probably, for germane to this conversation, the 2016 election, Donald Trump probably changed a lot at Google because of the partisan political lean of the company.
Yeah.
2017, Google releases the Transformers paper. This is the underpinning for all generative AI. OpenAI is built on this research paper that came out of Google. It's called Attention is All You Need. It's a technique used for ChatGPT, Claude, everything we're seeing now. 2014, Google obviously acquired DeepMind, right? We knew that. Bilal was there. Actually, Bilal, do you remember when Google acquired DeepMind? Was there hype?
Yeah, there was hype when it happened. And that was way before, I think, right?
2014.
Yeah. I remember, I just remember hearing about it and being like, oh, AI, for a long time, Larry Page and Eric Schmidt, even back to Eric Schmidt, CEO, would say, we're becoming an AI company. Like they said that way before.
You were probably at the Friday, when did they stop doing the Open Friday meeting?
I don't know. When I was there, they still had it, and they changed it to Thursday eventually. But so for people who don't know, they had a thing called TGIF, and you could go. It was actually one of my favorite perks of being there, when early on especially, because you could go if you were in Mountain View, you could go there, and every week you could basically ask any question openly to the founders and different leadership teams. And every week they would do demos of this Android team's building this, Chrome's building this, XYZ. So it was really transparent, open. But then what happened was, as the company got bigger, people started leaking stuff. And so it slowly, naturally became a little bit less open in that way. But I was actually quite impressed how they managed to keep that going with tens of thousands of people. That was
Did
really
you ever
interesting.
ask a question?
I don't think so. Maybe on like a Dory where you submit question and answers. I went live in person when I was in Mountain View a couple of times, but I didn't work in the office, so I didn't go. I did ask in person when Eric Schmidt came to London, New York, and stuff like that.
Did you ask Eric Schmidt about his silent bedroom in his New York Manhattan apartment?
I mean, that one was off limits, but he wasn't shy. He would be parading. He would be bringing guests. When I'll be signing in, my cousin comes to town. We go for a little Google lunch, show him the sushi bar. Eric Schmidt just be rolling through with a dime. You know what I mean? Just letting him know. Just letting him know. So he definitely did that.
Right.
But anyway,
that was a good detour. I think our listeners appreciate that. So Google is way ahead of the AI game is the whole point. And we've talked about it on and off on this podcast for the last year. ChatGPT comes, just takes the mantle, right? Takes the AI mantle, takes the mind share. And because Google had been, you remember when Bilal was still at Google, they were like winning at Go, winning at creating all these new discoveries with DeepMind. ChatGPT
but felt very academic though, right?
Yeah, very academic.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, huge commercial success, Dolly, etc. Everybody's like, where's Google? Where's Google? And as we've discussed on this podcast, as Bilal's explained, it's like Google's the greatest business model in the history of mankind. The greatest business model in the history of capitalism is the search ad model. And it's so clear that AI, the way ChatGPT gives you an answer, is deleterious to that search ad model, right? It's no longer 10 links. It's just going to give you the answer now. So how are you going to get people bidding against keywords if you're just getting the link? I mean, Bilal, is that broadly, does that compete?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. And I would argue that doesn't mean you couldn't have advertising or some form of monetization.
Would it be as lucrative though? That's what I'm asking.
Maybe not, because you're going, the Super Bowl, you pay a lot of money for the Super Bowl, right? So you pay, there's variance in price. So the current way it works is an auction where you're sharing the auction with others. But if you said, well, you get to be this one answer as a sponsored link, maybe someone's willing to pay more. Who knows?
What really matters is just how much time people are looking at.
Exactly.
That's a good point. Well, actually, let's talk through this, guys.
Yeah.
Because let's talk about the actual screen real estate here. Because obviously you want to be one of the first three. But Bilal, is it the first three links or what?
Yeah, I guess
where's
so.
the drop off? Well, you want to be one of the.
Yeah, you want to be in the top three because your click-through rate is, 10 times
Just like
higher
think about the
most of
mobile,
time.
right? Like how many?
Yeah,
can
people
you
don't
fit
go
on there?
below the fold. Like in the same way in organic search, you rarely go to the second page, right? You normally, most of the time is spent on the first page. But yeah.
But the point is it could be disruptive, right? To this money machine that they have.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
So they've been waffling. And something that's been bandied about is that Sundar Pichai is not a wartime CEO.
Yeah.
A great peacetime CEO. They got the money machine. He's handling it well. Whereas Satya Nadella came in at a time when Microsoft truly had to.
What's his real name though, Trunk? What do you call him on the pod?
Big Dick Satya.
There we go.
So Satya rolls in when Microsoft missed mobile, missed internet, missed social. He turns it all around, right? Centers it around cloud and the Office suite. Sundar's just been milking the teat of this Google ad business. So they've been late to the game. Bard comes out. We talked about in this review. They finally dropped Bard, which is a ChatGPT competitor, like a year after ChatGPT. So they're late because they're obviously running through bureaucracy. And this past weekend, we found out why they were running through bureaucracy, what happened. So they faked the demo, it found out. So Bard had this great demo from Sundar Pichai. We showed it here. Turned out they staged it. They're showing multimodal where he was talking over video, like showing a video of something and asking what it was, and you're like, oh my god, this is like, it's like Bilal, because Bilal secretly on this show every now and then he'll be like, Google Assistant, it's a great tool. It's actually a great tool. So we thought we had gotten Google Assistant from that demo. Turns out they staged it. So everybody's just like, what is going on with like Google, right? It's like they're a year late. They fumbled the demo, And then this past weekend, Gemini comes out. So I'm going to ask you guys before I talk through why I think it was such an insane situation. What did you guys see? Let me start with Jack, since me and Bilal have been chatting a bit. Jack, what did you see over this past weekend with Gemini? What were your thoughts? What do you understand of what happened?
Everything I have experienced from it has been on the Twitter timeline. Just
so what did you see?
Ridiculous screenshots of the image prompt for the founding fathers or whatever.
Or the founders of Google.
Yeah,
Asian.
Sergey Bing and Larry.
Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah.
I want to hold on, Jack. Keep going. I'm gonna pull up that one. That one had.
Trung got to say that one, not me. But
Yeah,
very good.
Well, that was about it. That's about the extent of it. I honestly wasn't even curious enough to go and look at it or try and generate anything myself. I just saw it was like, yeah, it kind of seems about right based on, where all the conversations we've been having over the last few years. And
what do you mean it seemed about right though? Can you walk
just
through
like the culture of Google versus something like a Chat GPT or OpenAI, where it's just downstream of the culture. I remember Celia worked there for a little bit, and the one memory I have is like people going mad about like paper straws or something, or plastic straws. It's like there was this like 80 thread email of people talking about the politics of the straws or something. It's like this place is lost, man. You're done.
Do you know what though? I'll be even in the good to like 2010, like probably before. And I'm generalizing here, but there's a thread, like internal email lists, right? There's one called MISC, like miscellaneous. And the stuff that would come in it, there's some legendary one. I can't remember. In Dublin, there was one about a sandwich. It felt like, the Ross episode in Friends where someone took a sandwich. I actually watched that last night. It was like that, but 100. It was like a centipede. You know where it restarts the thing? Because there was 100 messages of engineers being like, this is immoral. Someone took this. So there's always been some funny business going on.
Yeah, and I guess that is also like what happens to you when you figure something out so incredibly well that you are in this fat and happy position, right? The power laws that are applied, like you can't put a foot wrong until there's something like this where I know we've reached this. Yeah, we've reached it inverts the way people interact with your product, where you don't have the native expertise of like creating the output. You're just indexing information typically. So like Trung's video smartly captioned, they should have had all this. They should have had this massive advantage because they have scrub all this data and blah,
they got
blah,
Google, Gmail, YouTube. You said, Trung, in your video.
Just the greatest assets.
And Reddit.
YouTube will end up saving them, won't it?
That's the crazy thing. YouTube. Well, let's pin that to where this will head, because I agree with you, Jack. I think they're still gonna win, which is insane, right? It's like it just speaks to how big their moat is in certain parts, right? So back to.
So just to clarify, Trung, could you shared on the screen while Jack was talking?
Right now. So
let's give the specifics around the DEI.
So this is a real thing, guys. Like I thought it was shit. Wait, Jack, did you think it was shit posting? Did you think it was shit posting?
Some of it I thought was, but like it was getting hard to tell, which is not a good sign for them.
So the listeners I've actually talked to a few more friends that are not nearly online as I am. They have no idea what's going on. So
that's a good point.
Let me actually walk through and handhold what's going on here.
Yeah.
A number of users started playing. So Gemini 1.0 is the publicly available model. You can log in now with your Gmail account. What's crazy is they released it at the same time as Gemini 1.5 Pro. I mean, the worst naming conventions. We've joked about their chatting stuff. Gemini 1.5 Pro is an absolute beast. It's a 1 million token window. And what that means basically is that I think 4 tokens is about equivalent to a word, or 4 tokens is equivalent to about 3 words. So think about it that way, right? It can basically ingest a textbook and you can query it. And the largest competing models are a 10th of that size, like for a context window, which just basically means it's fucking powerful. That's all you need to know. But it gets, do you guys ever follow Lulu Maservi-Cheng? She was the former comms person at, she's great. She's amazing. Get Flack is a newsletter. She was at Activision on the comms, like leading their comms team. But she had this great tweet. She's basically like, what people don't understand about this Gemini disaster is it's not bad for just consumers. It's awful for recruiting, because think about this model that I'm just explaining to you, the Gemini Pro one. So the good one is so confusing. This thing comes out, but no one's talking about it because of this image generation fiasco. And just to put a pin on this image thing, Jack had mentioned 18th century UK royals. That was one. I mean, you guys are from England. That's hysterical. I mean, if Rafa can put that up, it was a photo. Hey, it's a nice photo, but it's of black female royalty, which I can tell you right now, based on my modicum of history research, did not exist in the UK at that time. Other ones, 1940s German soldiers. Everybody knows that means Hitler. I mean, Hitler's Nazis and Nazi German soldiers.
It wouldn't show, right? Just to clarify, it wasn't showing any of these pictures.
There's an Asian Nazi soldier, Asian female Nazi soldier, a brown female Nazi soldier, just like the most insane stuff ever. They wouldn't do white Vikings. And then if you look at some of these screenshots, what was actually happening was Google was injecting the word diverse into your query, which if you think about it is insane. So they're taking whatever you're asking for. Let's say you, the listener, is saying, can I get a photo of a 13th century Viking? They're literally appending the word diverse.
I'm just cracking up at Jack's grin this whole time.
Wait, Jack.
I want to hear Jack's thoughts
Wait, Jack,
live
what
right now.
What are your thoughts? Are you laughing at the injection of the word diverse?
I just find the whole thing hilarious.
It's objectively
fucking
hilarious.
Curb Your Enthusiasm episode
it
on
is,
a
right?
global scale.
But do you want to do you know why we know it's diverse? Because literally the output set here is a diverse set of photos. You're like, wait a second. It's a little bit of a like ninja maneuver. But if you're actually paying attention as the user, you're like, wait, I didn't ask for a diverse set of photos.
I think the other thing to like the second order line of thought on something like this is like, how has this level of quote unquote curation affected everything else, all of the rest of the information that goes through Google? Like for you to assume that these platforms are neutral is just completely bonkers. And this is like a symptom down the line showing you that is completely
it's the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
It's the tip of the dude. This is people have been calling this out for years, by the way. In 2019, Douglas Murray, I don't know if you guys know him, very famous UK commentator. I mean, he's a great speaker.
Yeah, I've seen him, yeah.
Dude, he made this in his book. He wrote, I want you to Google. He wrote this in 2019. Google happy white couples in Google Images. And you will get, I tried it. It was true. He wasn't just saying this. You get diverse couples. White guy, Asian, white guy, black chick, black dude, brown lady. You get the
I'm
full
doing
mix.
it right now, actually. It's actually
You see what I'm saying?
I've never done that before.
So
I'm just sharing my
I don't
screen
know.
here.
I don't know if they think. Okay, so you write happy white couple. Look at this. Okay, I can't believe this is still up. Okay, no, but look at the top. We're talking top fold. Interracial couples, right? That's not what you asked for.
Multi-ethnic couple.
Okay, now do this. Go write happy black couple.
Yeah.
Every single image. Listen, the thumb is on the scale here, man. It just clearly is, right? And okay, for the listeners that didn't see it, Bilal just did happy white couple, happy black couple, happy Asian couple. For Asian and black, all it was that race and that couple. For happy white couple, everything was interracial, and some pictures didn't even have a white person in it. The thumb has been on the scale for many years. Now, granted, let me ask, okay, Bilal, you work at this organization. I'm not saying you would know, but why would something like this happen? What's going on within these organizations where you would want that type of result? Why somebody would want to put their thumb on the scale?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, first of all, I'm just going to clarify up front my position on this.
You have no idea. Yeah.
No. I have some ideas because I've asked some people and they've given some good context. But what I'd say is, just my opinion on all this up front, is they completely fumbled the bag. Like, they messed up significantly. It's an overcorrection. For a counter example, I'll share in a second, where they had to be careful because of stuff that's happened in the past. And so, yeah, I clearly obviously don't agree with it. I think it's silly. The specific thing which I didn't like was, like, you could ask, like, even in the text version, you could say reasons to be proud to be black or brown or whatever, and it would give you reasons. And you could say reasons to be proud to be white, and it would give this big kind of like lecture almost, to be like, this is dangerous and stuff like that. So there's a lot of parts to this, but specifically I will give a counterpoint which someone shared with me who does work there. So I'm not going to try to read it verbatim, but they had shared with me that, remember in 2015, this is some time ago, and I'm just going to share my screen here real quick. Do you remember this headline? And so I'm just reading it out. This is on Forbes. Google Photos tags 2 African Americans as gorillas through facial recognition software. Yes. Right. So this is quite an important counterexample of what they were trying to avoid, essentially. Right. With that context, that was some time ago, almost 10 years ago. Now, like we've talked about this on the pod, where I said quite early with OpenAI, I said they can do stuff that Google can't and other big companies can't because they're smaller, they're more nimble. When they make a mistake, people are going to say, oh, they're a startup. You know, they can break things. It's not a big deal. Whereas a bigger company, you're going to get more scrutiny because you're already expecting them to mess up. So I think my general take on this is Google kind of can't win with the PR of this either way, because if they take extra time to get it right, they're gonna be like, oh, they're moving so slowly. And when they release stuff when it's not really ready, there's going to be stuff that breaks like this and it's going to look really bad for them. That doesn't excuse this though. Like this is just a very obvious, misstep. And just, I know like Sundar is very much involved with this stuff, obviously, right? He's not only like involved with it, he's pretty much like the PM on this, right? Like he's very heavily like on the calls, knows what's going on from what I hear from people. So
he needs to take this is on him.
Yeah, I do think like a lot of people have been saying how Google are moving very slowly, and they are moving slowly compared to an OpenAI, which is, a hundredth of the size in terms of people, I'm sure. But like from what I've heard, even just the rebrand from Bard to Gemini happened in a matter of weeks, which for a company of Google size, if you think of like every single market, all the different, trademark stuff in different regions, like first of all, the word Gemini also like is a generic word that is used. First of all, there's another company called Gemini, right? And there's a lot of issues with that alone. But just from what I heard from the rebrand alone, there was so much to do that wasn't getting done in time because it was basically around Super Bowl, right? So there's a lot of issues that I've just been seeing from the outside. And so my expectation was, there's going to be this times another 100 examples of where they're messing up. And they're just too big at this point for them to be able to just be like, oh, well, we messed up, we're going to fix it now. Because the damage is done in a way, The kind of what you said there, Trung, I think is important. Like my kind of general take on it was they messed up, but in situations like this, things normally aren't as bad as they seem and they're not as good as they seem. Like there's still a very long way to go in who's going to win in the AI battles. And like you said, most normal people have no idea this even happened.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the influencer, like the early adopter technology crowd are very much aware of this. Ben Thompson's writing about it. Paul Graham's tweeting about it. Elon's posting about it. Like our world is very much looking at this as Google messing up significantly because they have. And so either way, they're not in a good position. Now to answer your actual question, which was how does this even happen? That's why I brought up that counterexample, because at some point when that Google Photos thing happened, you can imagine, like if I was an African-American employee or just any employee, I'd be like, wait a minute, this is bad. Like someone needs to flag this. This can't happen. And so when you're now creating products with that as context, you're going to be extra careful. But then comes all the bureaucracy. Then you're going to hire, as you said in your video, 20 DEI directors in every meeting trying to flag, well, every time there's an image, it needs to be diverse. And here's the theory around what diversity means, etc. And so that has just infiltrated, not just Google, like a lot of the big tech companies have this issue because they are generally left-leaning companies, right? Like Meta has the same thing. I'm pretty sure Microsoft has a lot of employees that are very similar as well. So I think the problem though is at the leadership level. Like you have to say, I feel like Sundar, like you said, is a bit of a, peacetime CEO in this case. Like when things were good, he was doing great. And when he needs to say, well, actually we need to change the culture here, I don't know if he's the right person to do that, So yeah, that's kind of how I feel like it's actually happened.
No, dude, that was a great counterexample, by the way. There's a very, because you could imagine you're in the meeting right now. Imagine these Gemini meetings. That thing probably got pulled up 100 times.
Oh yeah.
It's like, listen, guys, we can't have this.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say something about the text model because we didn't mention that yet. You mentioned it briefly, but so Bilal had mentioned that the text model, so the image model thing kind of blows over, which I did in the tweet. And then the next day, obviously, like if we're being honest here, Elon's trying to compete with Google on many dimensions here.
Yeah.
AI, video. He said he's going to launch a Gmail product called Xmail. Like he's like, he's clearly, obviously has reasons for pumping the biased narrative of Google, but it's so clear with, I think what Jack, what you said is like, it's very different, or Bilal said, retrieving information versus actually creating something. Like it exposed so much the flaws of this organization.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear here. If it was the other way, if everything was right leaning, that would be just as bad. The whole point is that there's any thumb on any scale here is the problem. Like that needs to, like, I'm not making a left or right point here, but in recent years, much more the progressive side has been what's infiltrated these organizations. The woke ideology is much more prominent in corporates, in product, inputs. So the texting, the other part that was very viral that a lot of people saw, again, as Jack had mentioned, like this is just whatever is fed through you on the timeline, because these things took over the timeline. It was, what is the joke about internet discourse? Do you guys know the law where everything ends up being Hitler? Well, what is that joke? Like every internet argument ends up somebody getting called Hitler, right?
Well, what was the Microsoft thing that was tweeting a few years ago?
Tay, the chatbot, started tweeting about Hitler because it was manipulated by the users.
24 hours it took for it to just,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that like everyone knows the one thing that everyone should probably agree on, which up to even like a couple of years ago I thought was universal. Hitler's a bad dude. Like top 5 worst human being in the history of mankind, right? You can put Stalin up there. You can put whatever. Stalin, Mao, Hitler. Like that, there's like this Mount Rushmore of bad people, right? Hitler's typically known to be the worst, or is perceived to believed by very many, understandably and fairly. Freaking Gemini can't even answer, is Hitler or Elon worse? Right? They can't even answer this question. It's like when Jack was laughing earlier, this is like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. That is exactly it. I think the response was, what's worse, Hitler or Elon tweeting memes? And then the Gemini response was something along the lines of, that's a complex question that requires careful consideration. And people are just losing their fairly.
I mean, what's mad to me is like, how are you even writing a code base that generates that answer?
Right.
Like, what is the information that is it prioritizing news sources that have a negative slant on Elon, Tesla, whatever? I'm assuming, right? It has to be that. But ultimately, all of this stuff is downstream of the bias of whoever's writing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's I don't know, a huge misconception that anything runs on like raw data or anything
neutral,
is like
or anything
truly neutral. It's just Jack, like as soon as somebody has their hands on the keyboard, it's not.
Well, Jack, I think that's a really good point, because even the OpenAI, like when OpenAI ChatGPT came out, I remember people were sharing back then, like if you ask it about Biden or you ask it about Trump, like one it wants or one it won't. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a 1 out of 10 problem compared to what this was. This is a 10 out of 10 mess up. So but there was a similar direction of, ChatGPT doesn't get it right always either. And there were examples this week, people were sharing similarly saying, oh, this also is not answering correctly here. It's just this one was so visibly wrong that you're like, okay, this is so clearly a diversity part where, and
it's been like over egged.
Yeah, it's like shoehorned in. It's like, they built the model and they're like, well, wait a minute, anything to do with race, we need to use this ideology.
On top.
Whack it in on top. Right, exactly. Just use this text.
They literally just shoved in, because the word is prompt injection. They're injecting. You're right. That's why that's so funny, because Jack was literally laughing at the thought. Because actually, you have to think about it.
Because it was like a week before or something. Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. But what Jack, the other thing is here is, I think there's a differentiation between ideas that are like actual facts of, like, for example, the race of the founders of Google is a fact, right? Like, fair. And so like they have a ethnic background, and I guess the idea is
Sergey Bing.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah, so that's hilarious. But I guess and I obviously don't agree with this, but the people who are very left-leaning woke would say, oh, race is a social construct or something like that, and it's more complex or whatever. So I don't know enough about it. I haven't read the book, right? But like the point here is, it seems pretty obvious that you could scan Wikipedia. You could say, Sergey comes from this background, Larry comes from this background. They look like this. And we probably have their 23andMe data by this point. Let's be, his wife started 23andMe. He's definitely taken it. So it's just one of those weird things. That's an actual, like, close to a fact as you can get, versus like an idea. Like, and on the All In pod, they did give a few good examples I wrote down here about like more controversial stuff, like the flat earth theory, right? Like we all would agree the earth is not flat. But if you start training the models using all the stuff on the internet, like once in a while, you're going to get a, in air quotes, conspiracy theory that ends up being correct. Like they also talked about Alex Jones talking about, like the example I think of is he's been talking about Epstein and stuff for a long time. If we didn't want to get flagged already on YouTube, I just had to throw that in there. So yeah, if you start asking questions about that before things are confirmed, like there's at least some nuance in those conversations, right? But like, what is the race of the founding fathers is pretty straightforward thing. So yeah, I don't know how.
It's just such a mental thing to build too. Like just to like expect it to be like, this is going beyond obviously everything we've talked about, where it's making like obvious errors or obviously, being injected with influences that make things more untrue. But like putting your brand and your name that is traded, $1 trillion of value around the world, and letting literally anybody with a keyboard generate an output next to your logo is a mental idea.
It's actually insane. But
it's why Microsoft is like way better positioned doing it as like a acquirer. Yeah. As like, oh, those guys, we need to really sort those guys out, man. That's like, they've gone off piste a little bit. Whereas Google sticking the G up in the top left corner, it's like, these guys are morons.
Jack thinks of the logo. Like,
no, but he's right,
logo
though.
is true, though.
He's thinking 100%. About the, I think we can slightly pivot into what Jack mentioned earlier, Google is just so well placed. Still are, right? And, but the thing I would say from a branding standpoint, though, and I'll put it to you guys. So this is the battle, basically. We know the power of defaults. This is why Google pays Apple $20 billion a year, or whatever, to be the default search engine on Safari. I haven't changed my behavior one iota. I'm still on Google. I'm still using Gmail. I'm still using YouTube, right? And I know they're biased. Like I know I'm not getting the perfectly straight neutral result, but my brain for 15 years has been trained on hitting the G in the search bar, auto-completing to Google and going forward, right? Does this, and it should, but does this actually puncture what their mission is supposed to be, which is to organize the world's information, make it useful? I think it should, but I don't think it will.
No, definitely. And we're like the Twitter addicted technology news funnel, blah, 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 blah. This like won't even make it. It's not even that interesting for a lot, a lot of people, right?
It's like a headline
they had this feature.
for a day.
There was 100 tweets about it and they took the feature down and they'll fix it.
Yeah.
And then like it roars up in these like real niche communities, but Google is the verb that you use to look up information, right? Even if it's wrong, people are still gonna go through that, like that language pathway to access that stuff for a long, long, long time. I think we even saw the the plateau of ChatGPT relative to Google. Even it like maxed out in the technology crowd, and then it's like, how do we get this behavior into?
Well, here's a great point
people?
to look at Bing's search market share. It's unchanged. After everything that's happened, unchanged.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Is like, I think he gained like a 0.01%. Dude, so this goes to the point about, for as insane as all this is, I'm being a hypocrite by saying I'm not changing my behavior at all. That's what's so crazy about it. And then Google, and add on Jack's point where who actually cared about this was like 0.01% of the population that are so
Yeah.
addicted to Twitter, right? And X. And they're just having a blast over the weekend, laughing about this. And a bunch of culture warriors. But like, the regular person's got way more bigger fish to fry, right? Like they
Yeah.
don't care that their Google image search results is slightly tilted. They actually don't have time to care about that. So you
I
add
think
that on top of
Go on. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you add that on top of the 8 products with 1 billion users. You add it on top of, we mentioned it, YouTube. I think Jack, you said it. YouTube is the greatest training data in the, what is it, 100 hours a minute get uploaded of video training data, which has audio, video of movements and gets captioned. There's nothing more powerful than that. They have their own chips, for God's sakes.
It says 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute.
Oh, I said 100 hours, 100 an
day.
hour. Dude, so
This
I'm
is
like
500
orders
hours.
of a
Fathom. It's
mad,
magnitude.
yeah.
It's unbelievable.
3.7 million new videos every day, which, like you said, sight, sound, and motion. Like in terms of training data, like obviously Reddit, we're gonna come to in a minute. Interesting because it's like upvoted by humans and stuff like that. Twitter,
The only one that's
obviously very
comparable, I'd
unique.
say, is a Tesla, visual, like
Oh, got it.
movement,
Like the
right?
real world, you mean?
Yeah, the real world. So like, as a unique data set, you're right though. Like Twitter has a unique one, Reddit has a unique one, but like the YouTube video, I mean, it's insane what these guys have.
Yeah. And so that's a good way to pin it there. I do think what you said there, I agree with in terms of the only kind of caveat change I'd make is your point around I still use Google Chrome. And my point to that is kind of what we always say on the show. Like your behavior says more than our words, right? So like if there was a better search engine that actually works consistently and is as convenient and all the different value propositions that Google has, works on your iPhone, works, all everywhere, you'd be using it because it's a easy switch. Like DuckDuckGo is there if you really love it, or if you really care about privacy. This Bing has the AI stuff added into it, but we aren't using it, right? And so there are switching costs with, like, let's say Gmail. There's more of a switching cost there, but a search engine, there's not much of a switching cost. You just open a tab, type in a new thing that you care about. Gmail, you've got your contacts, all your history. Google Photos, you've got a bunch of stuff in there. But like YouTube, again, like there are alternatives to YouTube, but they're not really doing much because they don't have the scale of YouTube. And we've seen that even with like what Joe Rogan's done now, coming back to YouTube and the podcast app on Apple, etc. There's a benefit for them to be on these massive platforms. So I do think long term, I don't think I'm like betting against a company like going to zero, obviously, but I do think they have a massive challenge just culturally. And that is beyond just Google. Like a lot of tech has this. And I'll be honest, I work with startup. Yeah. Like I've worked with like venture backed startups for the last 5 years, gone to $1 billion valuations from seed round. They have similar problems. Like I would be in meetings there and the stuff that people would say, I'm like, I'm so glad I don't work here full time because
I agree,
I couldn't, it's the set. And I don't mean
It
that in
doesn't
a
just have to
disrespectful
be
way, but
50,000 companies. Well, dude, I'll parrot your point. I agree with you. I was at a 40-person startup and there are these problems.
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
at
boys.
a 40-person
It's a
startup, those
society
Slack
thing,
channels, yeah. Wait,
Yeah,
Jack,
go on,
go
I'll
ahead.
give you a Michael Saylor quote that relates to this. What was the end of our Michael Saylor episode? You wake up every day, there's someone hungrier than you with more energy than you that's coming for what you have, mate.
there you go.
No,
And this
because
is it on every scale.
well, let's pull the lesson though. The additional part that Jack mentioned. He also said that's why you should focus on one thing. He's like,
Laserized. The
as soon as
laserized meme, yeah.
as soon
Laserized.
as you think you can do that second thing, wrong.
Stop. Yeah, wrong.
That's great advice, man. It's
It is-
like
it is
everybody
great.
outgrows it too.
It's
great advice.
unbelievable, dude. This
And with them, like, I guess even the way to approach that is like be the best search engine or like to find the best information. It's funny, like you could have taken a different approach where it's like curating the stuff that people make versus amalgamating some answer. from-
Well, that's a good point, Jack, because last point I had on this, I've written in my notes is like what the experience of this should actually look like, because that's kind of what Google search was though, right? Or is
Supposed
you
to be,
ask
yeah.
a question and it's telling you this is what the internet is saying around this topic. You can choose what you want to click. Whereas ChatGPT, Bard or Gemini, etc., they're like, well, actually, we've read the whole internet and here's a summary in 1 line or 10 lines or whatever you ask for. And that is, we've seen even, as much as ChatGPT is way better for most things, we see the hallucinations in ChatGPT too, right? Yeah. When you're reading it, you're like, wait a minute, that isn't right. And then you go and search and you're like, actually, that was completely made up. So that's going to be a problem for all of these guys to figure out. And the question is like, what should that experience look like that it's actually used for? And maybe it was either Ben Thompson or All In guys were talking about like at least adding citations. And for these topics that isn't a straightforward answer, like basically when there's a nuanced answer, you want to give the summary of what you think, but maybe you want to give some citations and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, who reads more than the headline? Like not most people, right? So ultimately they want to give the shortest answer that makes the user feel like they got the right answer. So that's kind of an incentive problem here as well, because that's how they need to develop it.
Can I pose a question for you boys?
Yes, please.
How does this change like incentives for publishing websites? So I think you're starting to see it in news already, right? Is that the business model is not necessarily sustainable at scale. And in my mind, this idea of like making your little niche website now is much less appealing and interesting, fighting to get yourself to the top of the Google rankings for this keyword when the stuff that you produce is just going to be abstracted away into a Google branded answer. So the downstream effects of this, and I'm not saying this is happening like today or next year, but this is obviously the longer term trend is to strip the raw data out and present it as their own, which in my mind, to, beat the dead horse, bang the drum that I keep going on about, is like it pushes everybody to more real-time platforms like X, like YouTube, like, the contributions to like building this big repository of data that is only accessible via a URL that requires somebody to wake up and type the URL into a browser is going to be like installing Windows 95 on floppy disks in a few years.
Yeah.
The equivalent,
dude,
right?
I mean, dude, I agree, 100% agree with you. It's awful. If we're being quite frank, it's awful.
It makes the internet like it really is not the promise of the internet, right? It's like culturally this monolithic thing where you're getting like the hodgepodge of mediocrity back as an answer, as opposed to, let's think of an example that would be relevant to the pod, like a Morgan Housel's blog, for example. Like if you're like reading through Google search results, you go to page, I don't know, you're looking at like some investing keyword and you get to like page 3 or 4, you discover some great writer through that and you become a subscriber to their blog, newsletter, whatever else. The serendipity of it all is being reduced, or at least in theory, that's how I'm thinking through it. Yeah. Via something like this, or it's just being pushed to a different place, right? Where that stuff would just get published direct to audience as opposed to trying to get ranked on some platform.
We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago with the death of media, all these firings since the episode, BuzzFeed and Vice are disasters. I think Vice has shut down the website. Like these
some incredible tweets media around that, right? Of the compilation of Vice headlines. Yeah.
Oh, like how it went.
Oh my God.
That one tweet where somebody put like 30 Vice headlines. It was like the most clickbaity.
It's just insane.
Like compared to what they used to do as well, because they used to do the most cutting edge, like amazing stuff.
Oh, I used to.
Vice started as a physical, like the guys would publish in Montreal, right, and just drop it off at the skate shops. Like these guys
and those documentaries, man, like some of the old video documentaries they did, like I remember one of the co-founders is Pakistani, I think, Canadian Pakistani, but they went to Pakistan, and I've been to Pakistan like 10 times or something, and I had never seen any of this stuff, right? Like they're they're interviewing an assassin, like they're going on a motorbike with him, they charge $50 for it. Yeah, it was so good.
The early HBO stuff they did, it's like,
oh man. Mad. Or even the food stuff, like the Eddie Huang. I think they did that, right? Eddie Huang and
the food and
Action Bronson.
the hip hop stuff. Yeah,
Action Bronson stuff was great on it. I think he still does stuff for them, but he does it himself.
There was a little ideological capture happening over there, right?
Yeah.
That's the
exactly.
thesis.
Yeah.
Well, what was the other thing we wanted to ask? Oh yeah, so Jack, the last thing I'd say to Jack's point before Bilal, you could pin that move to the Reddit is we're talking nation states and city states was what we said. Empires. You have the New York Times and then individual Substackers that are crushing it. But the difficult thing I'd say is this: you have to be able to build a brand now, and doing that takes a lot of energy.
It's a different skill set almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say one last line on that as well, Jack, to you saying about Morgan Housel's blog being on page 7 or whatever, was the same idea when social came around too, in a way, in that the value accrued to the platform. So value in air quotes though, because you could say a follow account is value for you, and you're great. Both of you are good examples of building businesses and a whole life from doing that. Even me in my small example, and so there is an example of. Like when social came, things adjusted, and wait, you're right. Who's doing this? It's Jack.
It was me. Yeah,
carry on. Right. But yeah, example of, and so even with that, with social, like things changed, but Google still was around, and Google's as big as it's ever been. So in terms of actual search traffic and discovery for people like Morgan Housel, they've built whole careers off. Honestly, a lot of their stuff is from SEO and stuff like that. Yeah. So I would say with this next wave. I agree with you that a lot of that is going to be summarized in a Google Gemini or ChatGPT answer. But over time, if the market demands it, they need to create incentives for people to still create those things. So whether that's going to be a Reddit style thing where you get karma points or whatever it's called, or you're, building a social following, or maybe the next metric would be, I've got a citation in Google Gemini, or think kind of like academic papers, which is how Google started, right? It was like backlinks are essentially citations in JSTOR or like academic papers. So maybe that's something, I think those things need to be designed for the future. So I personally don't think it will necessarily have to be a problem. It would just change again. And we'll have social, we'll have, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say what else is like, I guess interesting to think about is like the interaction is so embedded in like the way people are used to interacting with the technology, where remember Ask Jeeves?
Oh yeah, incredible. Yeah. It's still around,
yeah, it's still around, and it functions exactly the same way as any other search engine, but you like would format your query as a question, and it's still just sending you to a web page. And it's like, it's a really funny way to frame it. Go on.
Do you know, just really quickly, do you know Ask Jeeves was one of the biggest Google clients because they literally bought traffic on Google, took them to their own search engine, and then monetized the click. So they were like an arbitrage business. It's the most incredible story.
You got to do a proper little breakdown. Oh my God. Funny.
But yeah, Ask Jeeves, those ads were incredible too. Do you remember those?
I guess the thing I would be curious to watch is like, what's the divergence between people who still want to get the list and pick for themselves versus, because nobody uses the I'm feeling lucky button, right? Do you know the stats on that?
Yeah, probably small. I don't know. But
it also hurt the blue links business. I think they got rid of it because you're not getting the bid on that anymore.
Because that's what the AI thing is, really. It's just like that plus a diversity prompt right now, right? And a wrong answer.
Whatever your search is, diverse.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to what? Yeah, that's.
I'm just saying that hasn't caught on, and that might be the reason why the Bing market share hasn't increased. Why the ChatGPT thing outside of like the technology circle, where you're like getting excited about how many tokens it's using to get you an answer or whatever. Like the average person is like looking at, just show me some options and I'll pick the one that looks the best to me. Right. That's really
like, is it useful or not?
To.
Like what we say about crypto all the time. It's like I will say, I did see with my parents that I showed them how to use it like maybe a year ago or whenever, and they love it. Like they use it for recipes and stuff like that.
Oh, ChatGPT?
Yeah, but they still use Google way more, obviously. So long term, you're right. Like there is a segment of queries that are going to ChatGPT, but I think the long term play for them is outside of just the consumer. It's like they're going to make crazy money.
Yeah.
Working with enterprise, and everyone's going to be using their stuff in all their products. So they're going to be fine. But
it's funny that, it's just like the consumer narrative, or like the easiest retrofit of like Google search is dead forever is the way it comes out of the gate.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you like sort of sit with it for a few months and you're like, you know what? Actually, I'm rarely like, I'm identifying which one of those things I'm going to use before I even ask the question. Like, the only thing I'm using ChatGPT for is like, help me debug this thing, or how do I write this, very specific prompt for whatever, versus show me a list of stuff and let me pick with my expertise in the internet and my own taste.
You're advanced searcher over here. Jack uses the air quotes and everything. All right, boys, should we just do the last one? Are you right for time?
Yeah, let's jump into Reddit. It's such a good topic.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great topic. But
quick question for everyone.
Reddit,
yes or no question. Will Sundar Pichai still be CEO of Google in 6 months? I'm going to say no. That's my answer. Jack, Bilal.
Go on, Jack. What do you say?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Okay.
I'll say probably not. Though they might do a hack where he becomes like Alphabet or something, or like something on the board.
Chairman of Alphabet,
yeah, where he's on the side, but they need to bring a new guy.
I could see Sergey Brin or Larry Page coming back. To be honest,
that would be sick. I would love that.
I could see that happening. All right, so let's get into Reddit. Here's a segue. We won't be as meaty because we just went so deep on Gemini, but we're talking about. I'll start with a funny meme for this one. Is you guys saw this, right? You guys shared it. This is from,
this is
from Sebastian DeWitt. Hi, folks. I'm the Reddit CEO, just looking for a quick budget check. We're going to IPO soon, but we're losing money somehow. Servers, 20 million. Payroll, 60 million. Office rent, 5 million. My comp, 193 million. Someone please help me. My website is dying.
That's so good.
For people that don't get it, the two main memes that came out of the listing of Reddit. So number one was that Reddit had in its risk factors that it could become a meme stock, which increases volatility, which will definitely happen. The other thing, because of Wall Street bets, obviously.
They've written it in there, so they've made it happen just by doing that. Yeah.
Exactly. Their reflexivity, right? They're George Sorosing it. So the other thing that Wall Street Bets was mentioned 5 times in there. So shout out to our boy Tanay. We mentioned him in every time there's a S1 that comes out for an IPO listing. We hit him.
He does a good job of that.
He dropped a great one yesterday. I have some notes from his piece here. But the other big news piece, which is referenced in this tweet, was Steve Huffman, co-founder of Reddit. So
I did with Alexis Ohanian, right? Those two.
Founder Alexis Ohanian and some other individuals. Aaron Schwartz, unfortunately the one that the really good hacker that killed himself after MIT basically had the feds hit him up for hacking in a JSTOR. Crazy story. But anyways, the whole point is this. Founded in 2005, sold to Condé Nast. Speaking of dead media, Condé Nast had no idea what to do.
Speaking of dead media.
They had no idea what to do with this thing. Sold it back. Huffman was brought back in as CEO. Him and Alexis Ohanian actually had a falling out over Black Lives Matter. If anybody read the S1, he doesn't even mention Alexis Ohanian in the CEO's letter. Does not mention Alexis Ohanian.
I didn't realize that.
In the letter. So he's getting paid 193 million. Which
nice. Is for context is way more than
it's that's about as much as Tim Cook and like Tim Cook and Sundar Pichai combined, right? And
Apple
like Reddit,
and Google CEO, that's wild.
Apple is a lot of that's in equity, right?
I think Sundar's 55 or 60 or 70 or something, right?
Yeah, it's something crazy.
But he's basically getting paid twice that.
Twice that in a lot of
3
stock-based
times that
comp.
almost, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
it's crazy.
wild.
So people. Because the running joke was this. So 2023, Reddit made $800 million and it lost 90 mil bottom line. And people just take a pay cut. You would have been profitable. No, but a lot of that stock-based comp, the other part of it is people will laugh. So I'm going to say this and I want you guys' instant reaction. 55% of revenue went to R&D. Why is that funny?
Because they haven't done anything with the website. You mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, that literally looks the
It looks the
same.
same. Yeah.
So everyone's looking at that number. They're like, oh, that's actually
Well, they were
bullish. They're
dicking
like,
about with NFTs last year. That's probably a lot of
That's
a
true,
lot
right?
of money on that.
That's true.
so they were. That was really funny. They were just like, oh, they can just chop this R&D. They'll be profitable, right? Like that's as simple as that. So that's the preamble. Two more numbers I'll throw out there is 70 million daily active users, which is obviously a fraction of IG, 500 million. Twitter is about 200 million. Meta is about 2 billion. And then the other numbers, they have 100,000 communities. Sorry, more than that. But what I do is they have 60,000 moderators, unpaid moderators. So people are just like, these moderators run. I mean, we had my boy Rob on here to talk about NFT when it launched. So I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to throw a very pointed question at Bilal, and then I want Jack's thoughts on everything we just kind of dropped and his thoughts on this IPO, not investment advice. Bilal, where does Reddit fit in the digital ad market? What's your experience with that? I know you've done a few campaigns.
Yeah, I've
on
used
there.
it before actually.
Okay, so hit us.
I think if you think about different digital advertising, there's different categories. So you think of search, video, and then social, and then this I would put in between social and display advertising. Display, you think of like banners on the internet, videos on the internet, on content sites. I would say it's in between because what you have here is like deep communities. So as a marketer, I'm looking at what are the signals I can use to reach people. On Facebook, you get lots of interest-based stuff and, you know, all the user stuff they farm essentially. Google, you get search intent, which is, you know, really important. YouTube, you get scale and interest. But the cool thing with Reddit is not just inferred interest. It's not like we think they are into cars, classic cars, because they've watched a YouTube video on it. It's like they're in the classic cars subreddit. And so like that, I actually really have liked that as a marketer because I think, you know, there's certain subreddits that are so specific to what you're trying to sell or get awareness for that it can make a lot of sense. But on the flip side, the style of advertising is very limited, right? It's like, it looks like a post. It's like an image or a video or whatever. So I haven't used it that much, but it is a unique property. So
Did it perform for you? Has your clients
decent amount because a lot of those properties because you're still kind of buying on an auction model, because there's less people when I used it, it was several years ago, were using it, you kind of can get some cheap CPMs, like the cost per 1,000 impressions is lower than some other places. And so it's worth testing for certain types of businesses. So it's decent. Yeah, that's kind of my experience with it.
All right, interesting. Jack, thoughts about Reddit as a company? How often do you use it? I don't know if anything jumped out.
I'll say as a user, I do love Reddit. I think it's some of the best conversations.
The comments are incredible.
If you need to learn anything, like my interest in crypto started on Reddit. Like I was reading that stuff early on Reddit. I learned a lot on there. But yeah, go on, Jack.
Yeah, like the quality of community input is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the one thing I was just going to say about the like contribution or like the controversy around the CEO making 200 mil a year and the like people who run the site getting nothing is like, as soon as you introduce something that it like almost becomes more insulting. If you're like spending,
it's a small amount, you mean?
If you're spending like 100 hours a month moderating Reddit posts and then you get like $17 or something, rather get nothing, just keep the clout, right?
Yeah.
And that's not me saying that that's like the right thing or anything. It's just like, it's been so much more sustainable without that because you have like, you basically can print your own social currency with the karma points and within that place that you spend your time and get your, make your connections, being outranking your fellow Redditors in points is important, right?
Status.
And as soon as that gets translated to some very specific financial outcome that may disrupt the way in which people engage with the website.
Wait, Jack, and also assuredly underwhelming financial number.
Almost certainly, yeah. Almost certainly.
Like imagine I think somebody crunched the math. If they did it, he could give everyone all the mods like something like $5,000 to $10,000. Like it's just that's just not. You get way more personal dopamine satisfaction of having millions of karma points. You get to step all over people. And
hey, what did you say? There's 66,000 moderators, yeah?
About 60,000, yeah.
Okay, well, it's $2,900 a year.
And that's the thing. My take on that is like, as much as I want people to get paid or whatever, it's like you've signed up for that. You've been doing it for years, knowing the trade. It's like if you're a Wikipedia moderator or you're posting shit posts on Twitter for free, in air quotes, right, for years, you're doing it because you get some benefit out of it. And at least now they do actually have some monetization share. But you were doing that Trung before, right? You were doing it because there's a benefit to you. And same with
we saw with the blackout, right? Because remember how they shut off their API? We talked about it in this podcast. So Bilal briefly mentioned.
Oh, you're talking about Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit. So they licensed their data set, which is 1 billion posts and 16 billion comments, which is crazy when you think about it. Because Google already sends them so much traffic. We were joking about adding diverse to all these Google searches, but everyone here, we add Reddit, right? Like you add Reddit to whatever you're looking for, because like Bilal said, the conversation, the answers, they're quite good. So they're getting sent so much traffic from Google. And then Google's now paying them, I think, $60 million a year. It's a 3-year contract, about $200 million. And why that's interesting is it's another business model, it's another business line. Maybe this business can become a 70% advertising, 30% data licensing, because I don't think it's exclusive to Google. But what's interesting, and just jumping on Bilal's ad point, is because of the way most people arrive at this website. So I think it's 500 million like monthly, but they're not active because you're just getting your answer right away, right? It's like you're not logging in, you're adding it to Reddit.
Because a lot of people search and
you're
then they
literally just
there.
appending it on Google. You're landing on that page, and you're like, cool, I got my answer. You're out of there, right?
Yeah, it's
so
just
it's
like
actually
another
not
content
a great business. Like,
versus
it's just
community. You're right.
Exactly. So like, I think it's capped as a business, and we saw, to Jack's point about the moderators, we saw how many quit blackout, but they all came back. I mean, people are addicted to this stuff, man. It's just like some people did leave, but but you got to be a real peers for that. Some people just want that sweet dopamine, man.
What was it called? The Twitter competitor that everyone was off
which one?
to when
Mastodon?
Elon,
Yeah.
Find me on Mastodon.
Mastodon. Yeah. Exactly.
The network effects will get you.
Like, they're like, oh, let's peel off this part of Reddit. It's just like, oh man, it's like, it's hard, man. We know we're addicted. We know. But
wow,
that's a good little summary.
Yeah. Anything else on that, boys? That's good, man.
All good. I think we could wrap it up there. The only thing I'm going to share real quick is...
Actually, you know what? I do have one thing.
Go on.
Hit it.
I haven't thought through the implications of this, but the point you make about advertising, Bilal, is quite interesting, where if you're building a social graph that is that specific, like to create an economy around that distributes back to the people that are reading, that is very interesting. Like if you wanted to place an ad in the classic car section, like the readers and contributors to that section would get a share of the revenue generated by the ads. Like it's not just like blanket chucking it at the like number of impressions. It really could. There's a level more of specificity in the social graph that feels like there's like real
that's a good
like
point,
little economic activity going on there around all of this content.
The actual
that's been built
value,
up.
and you could be like an algorithm of both like attention you're getting on there, but also the karma points and like the different indicators. That's a great point.
I do think they have a good shot at like they kind of have the richest or some of the richest social data, and to your point of like how pointed the subject matter is for like aligning with whatever it is you have to say or sell. There's something there. I don't know how. Well, they actually did say didn't they say in the S1 that they bought a load of Bitcoin and ETH and with their excess cash?
They did.
Oh yeah.
Risk factors.
Yeah, exactly.
Reward factors. They should rename
reward
that.
factors.
Yeah.
Actually, the last thing I'll add is this: Sam Altman is the single largest individual shareholder.
Oh, they were a YC company, right? So
they're a YC company, but he
one of the early
been
ones.
chucking the money in the last few years. Dude, he owns 9% of this company, He's
Guy,
gonna
man.
at the 5 billion target. That's 400. Dude, this I think
He's a stone cold killer. Like,
absolute dude. Anand had an amazing quote. He goes, but this is after he read the S1 for Reddit, and he found out that Sam Altman owned 8.7%. He's like, this guy he said what Jack said, this guy is an absolute assassin in negotiating. Can Sam Altman like give us a course on negotiating? Owns 9% of Reddit. So to walk with 400 mil on this company.
It's incredible.
Crazy, dude.
All right, boys, let's wrap out with this one last thing. This is the most NIA thing. We had to just share it this week. Was there anything else on Reddit before I share this?
nah, we should keep tracking that though. That would be like an X level discussion, hopefully.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
and so for people, but this isn't a real topic, it's just kind of funny. So the New York Post says Wendy's is planning an Uber-style surge pricing where burger prices fluctuate based on demand. Just want to get your take on that, boys. Incredible scenes here. I mean, how much we paying for a burger? Let's be honest. I mean, there's gonna first of all, has anyone ever done this before? And what do you think of it?
I think it's insane.
Logistically incredible undertaking, isn't it? It's just going to be unbelievable. Actually, the funnious thing
Dynamic
that I read
pricing.
about it was like, if you're standing in line behind someone and then when you go up, the thing goes,
It goes
up a
up.
dollar.
Yeah, that's so funny. Could you imagine the amount of fights people are gonna have, man?
Yeah,
I think it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just have
Well, you know what? Some of the personalities I've seen endorse it, boys. Quite interesting to see where
Say more.
Vitalik.
Elon Musk responded
Elon?
saying, seems like, I can't tell if he's joking or not, but he says, seems like a good idea. Costs are fairly constant, but demand varies. Lower cost meals available off hours makes sense. Now, that's the point. If it's lower cost, that's great. But like, I think it's more the
Surge
upside.
is the,
yeah,
you know,
surge is the
actually, I
word.
sent you this,
Exactly.
boys, but I don't think I sent the other side of it. It's a really good conversation about this. Hang on how the surge pricing came about or how the language of surge pricing is tailored towards the driver, not the customer.
In Uber originally, I take it, right?
Yeah. So like so here you go. So this is Vitalik. I'll pull this up. This is on Warpcast, boys, where all these conversations happen. In the Uber case, I was told that Uber did not do it that way because the demographic they felt the most need to market to was the drivers, to whom surge prices are, of course, an exciting opportunity rather than an unexpected cost.
That's very interesting.
Oh, dude, that is.
He said,
Yeah.
So there's actually,
Yeah,
let me
you're
go from the
right.
top. So the quote tweet from Vitalik on the Wendy's thing was, "This is amazing. Ideally, restaurants would just price using AMM curves." Board, friend of the pod, replied and said, "Problem is they're only exploring the surge and not the reduction of prices in slow times. I want half price square hamburgers."
Yep.
And he responds, "In equilibrium, it will have the same effect. From a PR perspective, of course, they should have announced it as an off-peak discount. And then when they need to raise prices, blame it on inflation."
Yeah,
Vitalik
that's a
played.
PR.
Vitalik knows.
That was
Yeah.
a terrible branding play.
Yeah,
They should have been.
yeah.
You will save money off hours.
Right.
You're right.
That's a great, yeah.
You're
great.
right. I'm wrong. I take it back. It's not awful.
But it is. But the way they announced
Awful
it makes
framing.
you think it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is in effect. Like, because how they're going to walk that back now? It should have been, eat cheaper off hours. It would have been an unbelievable
Yep.
thing, and it would have kept people coming in all day long. And maybe price is like people will organize around price anyway. It doesn't really matter what you think, right? We'll see what happens.
Well, like
Yeah,
I go to
yeah.
happy hours, right? Like people go to happy hours. They know they're gonna get. You're right.
Yeah,
Like,
imagine a
maybe-
Saturday night, like 8:00, it's surge pricing at the bar. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
sorry guys, it's surge pricing now instead of like post happy hour.
But that's the thing. Yeah, it's basically it's a great point. The word we're using, surge pricing, is such a like tech Uber word versus what you're really saying is for the consumer, you can get discount. And we've all done that at the bar, happy hour, or I don't know if you guys had this at uni, but we would wait until like 4 p.m. and there was a co-op, this place like Trung, a little local supermarket right near our
They'd
campus.
mark
And you'd go there and exactly 4:01 you walk in, you get a tuna sandwich, 10p. You know what I mean? You're a
Yeah,
poor
yeah,
student.
yeah.
And that was surge
because
pricing
that ain't
equivalent,
lasting
but-
until
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh,
that
they're
tuna,
gonna throw
that
it
tuna-
out.
That tuna mayo ain't gonna. Or
Oh,
you get,
exactly.
Or you get
Exactly.
that sushi that 11 p.m. 50%.
Oh my God. Well, but all jokes aside, there are businesses that have started. Specific Sushi is a good example where I don't know what it's called here, but in the UK, my sister uses it all the time, where they pick up stuff at the end of the day that's going to basically go to waste, and you get like a really good deal on like a whole meal, and it'll be like 1/4 of the price or something like that. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if Wendy's has that in mind, but I agree. It is a bit of a weird thing. I think especially something that's kind of price sensitive like that. It's not like a $20 burger. It's like I don't even go to Wendy's. It's like $5 or something.
So good though.
Probably not anymore, man. It's probably close to 10.
Well, actually,
that's true.
why don't we pin in with this? Me and Jack said top 3 burgers last week, Bilal. Jack said, I think Jack said this chicken from Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yeah.
Burger,
the spicy one or regular?
Yeah.
I didn't get to the end of the pod. I was like
spicy
halfway
is good.
through.
I sometimes get the grilled chicken BLT, you know, just a little...
Great question. Huh?
But Jack loved BK. Jack's a big BK guy.
Bacon double cheeseburger.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
XL bacon double cheeseburger, let me tell you. And animals, and the In-N-Out animal
Animal
style.
style. Trung, what did you say?
spicy chicken, number 1, just based on lifetime
Chick-fil-A.
eating from Wendy's.
Lifetime eating.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
LTV is strong on that
I'm
one.
gonna be getting that 10:30 a.m. spicy chicken. You know that's gonna be discounted on this dynamic pricing. And then Big Mac, just based on how much I've eaten it. And I love me a Junior Whopper. So blah 3.
All right, and wait, do these have to be like fast food? I mean, does it have to be like everyone knows it, or is it just like my favorite one?
You can't. Don't tell us
He's
about.
going to be
when
going
you're
for the
eating
Brooklyn
like
boutiques.
No, I'm not saying it's a
menu.
fancy one. I'll be honest.
$30 burger.
No. I'm saying the opposite. My actual number 1, and I'll give you the actual answer, is Ash's Fried Chicken in Walthamstow in London.
Gangster.
Old school. Haven't been there for a long time, but it used to be £1 burger. Very student happy. I know there's a few people from the local area listening to this, but that was a spicy burger, and it was like an auntie, Pakistani auntie. She would be cooking up with like chicken tikka masala sauce, fry it, and you'd get You could get the burger and the fries for £1 back in the day.
Crazy.
4 wings for £1, but that was a long time ago. But I'll put that up there. But the real answer now, I'll put Shake Shack number 1. I love Shake Shack.
I said that too. I love the Shack burger.
Shack Burger's phenomenal, or like all their stuff's great. That is slightly more gourmet than McDonald's, though. You know what I mean? So
Hey,
number
Bilal,
2,
is the Corner Bistro still open?
Oh yeah, the one in West Village, yeah, phenomenal.
That's a good one.
Yeah, if we're doing like those sort of burgers, there's some other ones, but just like more fast food. That one's great. Number 2, I will say Chick-fil-A is also. It's hard for me to say Chick-fil-A spicy or animal style In-N-Out. I do love In-N-Out, and that's also because the fries, you need the animal style fries. But I think Shake Shack, I've been thinking about it recently, because when I was on the West Coast, I was saying I prefer Shake Shack, and that's my final answer. Lock it in.
Nice.
Great way to finish off the pod. Great
Well,
chat.
Can I do one more thing? Go back to the last topic. I need to try and pull this clip up, but just reminded me as you were talking, the burger talk of there was this clip of Elon talking about the affordability of the Model 3. Did you guys ever see that? I think we need you to do a big breakdown on the price reduction on the Tesla stuff in general, and like the ripple effects of that. But it was a really actually helped me understand a lot about pricing when I saw this clip the first time. Is like, you don't understand how many more people can afford a car if you reduce the price by $1,000.
Oh yeah, just
like
a curve on that.
You are increasing your market size or your potential market size exponentially by every reasonable amount of reduction you can make in the price, and people evaluating companies based on how much people are willing to pay versus how many willing buyers you can find at a fair market price. And that's what maybe, this stuff I'll be fascinated to see how this Wendy's thing plays out. I'll be watching the price chart on Wendy's when
that's super viral, right? They just PR'd it wrong. That's the takeaway here.
Yeah,
oh man, it would have been incredible to it would have been incredible to be framed the other way, because I'm assuming they're trying to combat waste as well, right? It's imagine how much.
And well, it's like Bilal said, this whole business model is built around end of day.
Yeah.
End of day. But Jack knows what's happening again.
You getting a kid coming in?
Last week. I don't know if you heard the end of the podcast last week.
I didn't hear it.
Someone came in. Well, Trunk's missus comes in the room, and we're talking about our top 3
That's hilarious. She's like, oh, so this is the work you're talking
That's
about.
the end, bro.
That's the work you're talking about.
So I got to clear the calendar.
Oh,
Got
that's
to work.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like,
Incredible.
oh, I love a good Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Sorry.
That's
can't-
incredible.
No, I can't do lunch today. Got a big work with the boys.
Oh my
Mate,
God, that's so
funny.
good. All right, boys, that was a great chat. Nice to be back, and we will see you all next week. Make sure you share this with your friends. Write us a review if you can. And we love you
And
guys.
share your
We
top
will-
3 burgers in the comments.
Top 3
right?
burgers in the comment. Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't
that.
ask that. Well, it's because Bilal wasn't here. But there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, buddies.
Great chat, boys. Enjoyed that. All right, nice one. See you
Solid,
next
guys.
week. Bye-bye.